Welcome to Demystifying Spirituality. This is Anya. I am Ray, and we're here to talk about some fun, metaphysical topics today. I am one with all. We are one with all. We enter into the frequency of abundance, into the frequency of appreciation, of divine love and acceptance of all that is. We allow ourselves to raise our frequency to the highest timeline for both of us and the collective in this moment.
Beautiful. Awesome.
And I'm going to ask my guides as well, my higher self, my team, to come in and stabilize our connection. Stabilize my connection to the internet, your connection to the internet, and then our connection to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they pulled a unity connection with it between the both of us and then the technology, and then both of our ET groups connected, which I thought was really cute.
Yeah.
They're like, hey friend, y'all good over there?
Yeah. Okay, I turned the feels better.
Yeah. Thanks for working together. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
So self-love really is the beginning, I think, of any spiritual journey. Self-love. I think that's kind of where it all starts. Or at least even just self-acknowledgement. Self-acknowledgement, maybe just acknowledging your feelings, like looking at yourself, being present for yourself, being present for yourself, and then you'll find your way to loving yourself. But for me, I grew up feeling very much at war with who I was. I hated my light skin. I hated being white. I hated my light skin. I hated looking pale and pasty, and people always told me it was beautiful, but I didn't feel that it was beautiful. I didn't feel beautiful. I didn't think my freckles were beautiful. I felt like I remember the first time I wore foundation in like 7th grade. One of my friends let me wear hers, and my mom, because my parents wouldn't let me wear makeup, and so I tried it on, and I just saw my skin like looking like all one color, and I was just like, whoa, and ever since then I was like obsessed with like makeup and just like masking, like changing my appearance based on how I wanted people to see me. Yeah. And I hated okay, I have been prejudiced against my own like skin tone. Like for example, I would say things like, it's okay for a brown person to be hairy, but for a white person to be hairy, it just is gross. Like to me, it's just gross. That is, in my mind, that is a thing that I've had to deconstruct and figure out. Why the fuck do I think it's gross for a white person to be hairy but not a brown? Why do I think brown fat people are way more attractive than white fat people? Like, ew, white fat people grosses me out. Brown fat people, I'm like, whatever, like it looks normal. I just have and as far as what I'm attracted to physically and sexually, I never was attracted to a white person ever. Like only people of color, all different types of people of color, but like pretty much anyone that was pale with light eyes, pale even with brown eyes, I just naturally physically was not drawn to that. So this is how you know it's more than just how I was raised, because it was this instinctive, like, you can't help who you're attracted to. I mean, that's like a part of who you are. I mean, so anywho, it's been a long journey for me of learning to accept myself and learn to see beauty in whiteness. I've had a hard time with it. To see beauty in also the roundness of the features. I very much have always wished I had more defined jaw, defined, but I'm not. I'm a very soft looking, like everything's rounded and soft, my lips, my everything. And I have always had,
You're beautiful.
Well, I've come to find myself as beautiful, but it has taken a lot of work. A lot. So I just want everyone to know, like, that's why I'm talking about this, is because I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about this before.
No, I've never heard anyone talk about that in that way. I think that's a very, very, very powerful message to be able to talk about, because maybe people don't also feel brave enough or comfortable enough or like it's valid enough of a concern. And these are things that we need to talk about, because it normalizes that and allows people to step into that vulnerability about them sorts of things.
Right.
For me, it was never really like skin color or facial features. It was always like my weight. I got quite badly bullied for my weight, and my autism had a different name. I was always different, you know. I always was really different, and I think that's what always stood out. My parents were hairdressers, so I always had really funky hair too. So I always had like, I was just always just the strange little odd little one, and I think I just always felt out of place, you know. But it was, I didn't experience the same in terms of physical appearance in the skin color and things like that. It was more weight. I always had issues with weight till I was about 17. For years I used to starve myself. Go bad. It was bad. Bad. With the calorie trackers, and it became so bad. Such an obsessive hatred for self, like, and just like damage and self-abuse, you know, in the aim of beauty. It's just fucking disgusting.
Well, in the name of image, really. Just in the name of image, like, rather than, it's not really about physical health at that point. It's about the image, what you want to look like. So for you, that was a soul lesson you wanted to learn. That's why you chose, you know, whatever, the body you chose, the family you chose, because you wanted to face that part of yourself. You wanted to face it and deal with it and heal it. So that's the whole point of why I chose a white body that also struggles with weight and is overly hairy and short and all the things that I dislike, right? Like all the things that I don't find attractive in others. I don't find shortness attractive in others. I don't find chubbiness attractive in others. I don't find, you know what I mean? Hairiness, all the things about myself that I've had a hard time accepting. It's like
a mirror, you know, of all the insecurities and the things that you don't necessarily love about you. And this, please excuse me if I'm wrong, but then it almost like repels you against that in other people, you know. It's like, I can't accept myself, so I cannot accept that in you. I cannot validate if I can't validate that in me. And I think that's a massive beautiful thing to acknowledge, though, because, you know, like them like, I'm sure throughout the past you've had different acknowledgements, and as you know, like when we get to that place, it's that when we move through them ideologies and start to find like where they come from and where they've been systematically built up and where we've contributed to building them up. So it's kind of like really valuable in terms of reprogramming old and outdated programs in as mindset that are not serving us.
Yeah, because when we're grossed out by something, we're in a state of judgment. When we're healed and we fully love ourselves and we fully love all aspects of ourselves, then we find everything and everyone beautiful, and we won't be disturbed by others because we're not disturbed by anything within ourselves, right? So we step out of that space of judgment. But anywho, I think it's just, it's great to think about, like, why did your soul choose your specific body, family, skin? Like, I think it's just good for us to like, be aware of it. So that we know.
Yeah. There is people that also come in the most physically, like, and I'm not talking ego here or blowing my own trumpet out, but I have necessarily nothing wrong with my physical appearance, you know, like it's great. But then what I struggled with for years was physical health. So like I was just debilitated. My body didn't work, you know, like it was just so out of whack. So there was also then the internal self-hatred and trauma holding and all this like disconnection from self that was not necessarily presenting on the outside. It was presenting in on the inside. So there is multiple different ways that it can show selves. And just because someone's like looking physically, aesthetically, socially pleasing, whatever that means, you know, doesn't mean that they feel or their body's functioning, or, you know, there's so many different dynamics the way that that's working. And I think that was a very, very common misconception of mine, where people used to have with me. They'd think, oh, she's young, she's, you know, good looking, she has no problem in the world, like she's loved by her parents, like what could she possibly be struggling with? Not realizing that I was literally on 26 tablets a day, a big pharma reliant, you know, there was just so much like that wasn't in alignment, and people just judge because you look socially, I don't know, like socially ticking boxes, or you fit the flow of society, that everything's just fine. And I think that's a really big misconception as well.
Yeah, it just goes all back to not judging a book by its cover. It goes all back to not making assumptions by appearance. It goes all back to appearances are just appearances, and they are one little aspect of the soul's expression.
Yep.
So it's just important to remember that, like, we're all basically just wearing a mask in this body. This body is just a mask.
Like a little
it's a shell. And we change shells all the time. Like all the time. Like every single human on this planet has changed shells thousands of times. And the fact that you don't remember is just, that's the only thing is that you just don't remember. But that's just part of the game, you know.
Okay, so I have a cool question, just really quick. You don't also have to answer it, depends if you want to talk about this. But on the terms of like soul, well, obviously this is different lifetimes and reincarnation. So how I've been getting in messages lately is we have the oversoul. Like I always explain to people that don't quite understand it, is you have like a big mirror, and then you smash the mirror and there's all the fractals of self, and me as Anya in this lifetime is a fractal of that oversoul, but then there's multiple different versions of that oversoul. And then people keep talking about after the flash, the integration of the oversoul, which I do get as well, like because we've already been getting the integration of some past lives and things like that. But I suppose, how do you see that looking in terms of like, do you think we will then become multidimensional beings in one body, in like multiple consciousnesses and memories and experiences on like the same level that we have access to now? Or will it be more like little books in the head of like little, you can just check that book? And I don't know, like, how do you see it?
So it's complicated, but let me tune into it, because I see it a little bit differently than how I've heard other people describe it. So I feel like it's going to be more like you have access
That's how
to all aspects of self. And it's almost going to feel like having multiple personalities at first. And it might be a little overwhelming. And I think that's why a lot of us have been already, the thing is it's not going to happen all at once. We've already been integrating these higher self aspects. So I think that when the flash happens, I don't think that it's going to be in the highest good for everyone to have this overwhelming download of memories and experiences. I don't think it's like that. I think what it is it's going to activate the part of you that can tune into that when at will.
What a beautiful way of explaining it as well, because that's what I struggle to navigate, because I didn't see it as like a full one thing and then all parts of self coming into one. Like you say, I just think that'd be a bit like feeling like you've got schizophrenia, and I feel like it'd just be a bit very intense, especially for people that have no understanding or not much conscious understanding of and preparation for how to integrate this. Obviously for us, even for us, I think it'd be difficult to navigate that. So I think that'd just be too intense. But then obviously, like you say, we have access now to past life abilities and connections from all these different dimensional lifetimes that we can now, oh, there's an orb above your head then, that was beautiful. Different lifetimes that we can connect in with. So I do see it as that kind of like, I don't know why I see it as books, but like you can just go read that book over there and then have access to that book back. And then that's how I see it. You're just going to have like a library in your brain that's more accessible. That's what they said. It's like now you access it, but you access it with like a library slot. So I have a certain time and a place, and like, it's like more harder to get the information with all the flow. Whereas then they say it's just going to be easily accessible.
Yeah, exactly. Much more easily accessible. But there will be a certain knowing that everyone gets.
Right.
Everyone is going to get a certain underlying sense of knowing that there is definitely a bigger divine purpose, like divine order. Like they're going to have a sense of knowing that like there's more than just this existence. Like they will for sure have the knowing. Like they won't even question it anymore. Like they'll just know. Yeah. And also when it comes to like the integration, there will be the opportunity for some people to have a more physical integration where they actually get to shapeshift.
I did also see, and I also seen like what I've heard you speak about before, because poor Trish, my mother-in-law, best mate, business partner, whatever, little like my lover, she seen herself stepping out of a body and she thought she was dying. I was like, you're not going to die. I said, I think your original body, I think she's one of the few percentage that actually has the physical ET body waiting to integrate back into, or she'll have the choice at least. I definitely think she'll have the choice. Because, you know, she's like, no, but I see myself leaving my body. And I was like, so I channeled in and they said to me, there's a small percentage that will go back to their original bodies. But I was like, but I'm not leaving my body because I don't see that. I just see the ability to change. So that's where you've got the shifters and things like that.
Yeah, some will leave, exactly. And some will just be able to go back and forth and shapeshift between. It's funny, somebody asked me to speak on the vessels waiting for us, like our different vessels that we have in stasis in different motherships and different star systems. Some of them are already here on ships that are like here. So someone asked me to speak on it because they said they were just like, I don't know, they were just curious about like how they're being stored or why or how it works. So I don't know if you, I mean, I have a lot to say on that, but like, I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
Yeah. So the way I see that is kind of like what I tapped in with Trish. It's like, I think it's like you say, it's very complicated. So there's multiple different layers to it. So I think there's some people that have come in from 6th and 7th density into the 3D body, but that have the ability to have the subconscious cellular memory to adjust their physical body to match the frequencies as they adjust. So they're going to be able to kind of shift into the new earth, and their frequency of that physical body can just adjust at will because they have like it's almost like a thing in the top of the spine that allows the DNA to adjust to the frequency so that they don't have a physical reaction to that. And then I see there's those that obviously there's some that have to return to source, and then they're going to go back to their original light bodies because the physical bodies can't handle the transition. But then you've got some that will go through the transition, but then will have the choice to go into their hybrid bodies. But then I do feel like this is where the integration process, I think, gets too complicated for even my understanding at this point, because if there is extra dimensional versions of us that share the same oversoul, and they are waiting for us outside of the flash, outside of the dome, whatever, then how does that work in terms of, are we physically going to integrate with them, or are we going to be two separate beings with a shared consciousness? And I think it's more the second one.
Well, it all depends on what you're doing now. I mean, some souls are operating as, okay, so when you think about your consciousness, your oversoul consciousness, you know, you can have most of your consciousness in like one experience and then just a tiny bit of your consciousness. But the thing is you would think that it has to be balanced, but it doesn't, because some life experiences don't require as much of your,
like your attention.
Yeah, your attention. Yeah. And the thing is think about all the hours that you're sleeping. All the hours that we're sleeping here, there's infinite possibilities of the things that your soul could be doing when you're.
Definitely. I'm definitely accessing every time I go to this parallel universe, and it looks like where I went to university not far from here, but it's all slightly different. And I come back, and there was a time where I came back and I physically didn't know where I was, what day, who people were. I had to think like who is a person I know in this lifetime to gain bearings on like what the fuck life is. I was really, really, really lost there for a moment, and then I started getting bearings of everything coming in. But it can be the case of, you know, I think like you say, when you're sleeping, you're doing astral missions, and then that goes back to the point of is there more so just light bodies that are doing this work, so they won't necessarily be two physical versions of you, there may be light versions of you with partial consciousness, or is that just the higher self? Because that's when it just gets so deep, right?
So the higher self, I think of the higher self as the oversoul itself.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, okay.
So there is multiple vessels, like bodies, that many of us are operating, our higher selves are operating, right? And that's how the higher self has so much, because the higher self can also access all of the lives and experiences you've ever lived on every timeline and every dimension. So your higher self is connected to everything you've ever experienced as a soul. So your higher self can connect you to source, but you can also circumvent your higher self and connect directly to source, which is also really fun. But anyway, as far as the merging, the integration, no, we're not going to be all of a sudden like merged, like the timeline, like we're not going to cross over, like there still will be separation.
Yes, that's right.
There will still be separation, but you will have more awareness of what your higher self, your oversoul, is doing in other places.
For that information, it's like,
yes, if you want it.
Yeah, so it's like me, you, and you know, a couple of other friends all have the same iCloud, and we all like send pictures to the iCloud, and if we want to, we can check that iCloud and check them pictures out. Exactly. But if we don't, they're not just going to be thrown down as throat, like
exactly.
iCloud.
Exactly.
What analogy they used, I really like that. I'm going to keep that.
It's all about the access. It's all about gaining access. That's all this whole ascension thing, the flash, it's all just about gaining access, gaining the ability, having the option, having the choice. There's nothing forced on you. Like you get to, like you said, you get to seek out the information if, how, and when you're ready.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about it. Like,
that's why the earth is splitting. That's why the earth is splitting, because some people are going to choose to stay very 3D. Some people.
This is where I would love to know more, because I can't find it now because I just didn't prepare, but I have a painting I did about 4 years ago, and it was of two earths, and one was smaller and one was bigger, and the earths was like separating apart. And when I channeled in, they told me there'd be a choice to stay in 3D or 5D, you know, a subconscious choice, and there'd be a certain like different timings for people, so it wouldn't everybody get the same choice on the same day. It'd be different choices over the period of time. But
my
then
volume button just changed itself.
Someone
I think it was my watch. Okay.
We're okay.
I was like, what is going on? No, it's this, because you know the spinny thing.
So then when I channeled in, and then obviously I've met recent people, and they, you know, when I ask them, they see it differently. People see it as just this one earth, and then the earth is actually upgrading into the higher frequency. But I always seen it as two earths. So I would so love to hear your perspective on that, because I get really torn between, is it just one earth and we're kind of encapsulated in that, and we're going to be connected to the outer earth? Is that why I've seen two earths? Or is there actually going to be two planet earths?
There's going to be two earths.
I thought
I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but I know there will be two, because there are so many people who are able to ascend, they're able to learn, they're able to evolve, but they are so far from where we're at that they cannot go to 5D earth. They cannot. There has to be a place for them to still like evolve the way that we did, like to still have the opportunity we did,
to have the chance to do that. So what will happen in their perspective to us? Will we have died to them?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay. So
all this, but listen, this is how I see it. Okay. Imagine, this visual is how I see it. Imagine all the people are little dots, okay? And all of the dots are different colors based on vibrationally where you're at, okay? And what you're ready for. All the colors are starting to go together. So they were all spread out. All the colors were intermixed. And now the polarizing, everything's being polarized. So all the colors are starting to go to find each other. So eventually all the lower dimensional colors, not lower dimensional, but slower vibrational, they're still young, they're still learning, but at a slower pace. All of those soul energy frequencies will start congregating in the same places on the planet, right? And eventually all the higher vibrational people, faster, I don't like higher, faster vibrational people will be vibrating. Because you notice how people that are, okay, starseeds especially, ADHD, autistic, neurodivergent, we think faster, we talk faster, we move faster, everything we do is faster. It's because we're at a faster frequency. Like literally, that's what makes that, when people say higher frequency, what they really mean is faster. That's like higher notes are faster.
When you say higher, it always gives that preconception of ego as I am better than you, and that's never what we're trying to say. There's just, I always try and explain it like, even this comes with ego, though it's intentionally not meant to be, but like levels on a video game, like you've gone to that level and you've completed that accomplishment, so you get to the next one.
But it's not even that. It's expansion. I think we talked about this the other day. It's expansion. It's the more experiences you have, the more that your energy expands.
Yeah, of course.
And then as you expand, you gain access to dimensions that are wider and farther away. That's it. Like you start from the center and then you work your way like out. So
in terms of them physically, so how would it then work? See, when I seen the two earths, I thought...
Oh, wait, sorry. I'm almost done with the analogy. Okay, sorry. So all the colors are starting to separate, right?
Yeah.
But this is going to be over a period of time. Like, this is not going to be like a week or a month. This is going to be probably like 50 to 100 years.
Okay.
The next 50 to 100 years, the separation will keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger until generations of people haven't heard from each other in so long, you just start losing touch. All the people that are the different vibrations are going to start losing touch with each other until eventually you look around you and you and me and the teachers and all of us that are like already there, like with our understanding, we're not even going to be crossing paths with the people who are right. And then after that, that's when there will be a separation. Like all of a sudden, they'll like, people will look around and be like, I haven't heard from this person in a really long time. I wonder what happened to them. Or like, I haven't talked to them in 50 years or 20 years, whatever. But the thing is also those people, a lot of them are going to be dying a lot faster because they're not going to be using med beds necessarily.
What my next question was going to be, like,
so they're not going to be we're going to be extending our lives, so we're going to be experiencing this from a right, yeah, and we're going to be able to see them still only living till 50, 60, 70, 80. Because people are going to still refuse to allow certain information into their awareness because they're not ready yet. So that is why there has to be this 3D earth has to remain. Like those people are going to stay here. I think they're going to develop this planet, or I don't know, maybe there's going to be a smaller earth created for them. I think that's what it is. That's what it is. The smaller earth,
bigger earth, that's what I see.
I think the small one is for them. It's going to be a replica, and it's not even necessarily going to be real. It might even just be a hologram or a spaceship or something. But it's going to give them the experience that they need to stay in the hologram, the matrix, for a little longer to slowly integrate. And then eventually, I don't know, I think eventually they'll either be given the opportunity to join New Earth when they're ready, and they won't even notice the transition because they'll just evolve and ascend right into it. Like one day they'll just wake up and they'll be there and they won't even know. But also the people here, we will still have awareness of them. Like we're still going to be able to tune into them and like observe and make contact if we want to, but we're not going to want to. Like we won't even know anyone over there anymore. Like we won't be connected personally to anyone over there anymore because it's just going to start like that, you know? But it's because as soul groups, we're all learning different lessons and it doesn't make sense for...
It makes so much sense. Like all of that makes so much sense. I think what I struggle with is, not even struggle with, that's not the right word, but because I'd seen the two earths and because I've seen it shifting like that, and like the 3D and the 5D or whatever you want to call it, the, you know, different levels of vibrational frequency and density, I suppose that's what throws me off when we have all the different perspectives, which you've always got to listen to your own intuition, of course, but then is other stuff that makes so much sense, you know. And then I'm like, so how does it navigate in terms of like with the extra dimensionals coming in with contact and, you know?
Yeah, the dome's been deconstructed. The extraterrestrials are going to be revealing themselves, but listen, like when as the reality split, we're going to be able to see the ETs. We're going to be able to talk to them. But like, so they could be standing right next to us, and then someone else could be like, "I don't know what you're talking about. You're literally crazy."
Okay, so okay. But that obviously, because they're then going to be in separate places, those that have the contact and the visualization and the understanding are going to be in their own, like, they're going to be split off.
So eventually, as the people that are vibrating in different frequencies migrate together and split, right? We will eventually, I think what we're going to do is okay, you know when a cell splits from itself, that Earth is going to do that.
Yeah.
It's going to like split apart. And it's almost like the physical, how do I describe this? It's like, okay, like a snake shedding its skin. Okay, like a snake shedding its skin. So the Earth is going to shed her skin. It's going to be this shell of Earth that's
yes,
not, and that's what actually Earth. That's where they're going to stay. And then what we're going to do, there is ETs and whatnot that's going to make it inhabitable for them and like keep the simulation alive so that they can work out their shit, right? But the real healthy, fresh, baby new skin Earth, you know, that's the Earth we're going to be on.
Yep. That makes, that's clearer. That is a lot clearer because it is navigation between, like, okay, so obviously without all the spiritual kind of and energy work, there is a scientific solar flash happening. There's a solar flash happening in the, you know, it's just a science. Go check in science. It's a legit thing. So that is happening anyways. The Earth is going through an upgrade into a reincarnation or an upgrade of incarnation density, you know. So it is kind of what it says it is on the tin, you know. It really does say, but then it's about on a human level. It's my human that struggles to visualize, you know, like if the solar flash is coming in March and, you know, April, what does that look like?
That brings us to another topic that we wanted to talk about. You don't need to understand something for it to be true. Which is me. Yeah, and all of us, that's all of us. We're all seeking to understand, right? We all just want to understand how, why, like that's just natural, right? Curiosity. But understanding is a double-edged sword, right? So we have to remember that, like, if trying to understand something is bringing us worry or anxiety or frustration, then we need to just stop trying to understand it and let it be. The understanding will come when we are capable of understanding.
Yeah, 100%. Divine timing.
You know, and that's what it all comes back to. Constantly coming back to center, coming back to trusting the timing, trusting. It's like all day, that's all I do is just constantly remind myself, okay, we're going to trust. We're just back to trust.
Only the human fear that says in my mind, oh, well, what's it going to look like? How's it going to look? And honestly, it's been that way for the past couple of months, because once I've always had these visions, like I said, a couple of years ago, but I didn't understand the bigger picture. Like I really didn't. I just didn't get the bigger picture to it. So when I had the clarity of what it means on a physical level, that's when I started to ask loads of questions. Like I'm like, oh, what's it going to look like? No. You know, and it's that human fear that tries to understand and navigate that to prepare. Whereas energetically, we're fully prepared with everything we could fucking need and ever think to need. We have access to it, but it's the human version of us that feels powerless, that does not believe that. So it is about reminding that and to trust in the inner ability to go into higher self, you know, to go in within and with the ETs or whatever you resonate with, you know, God, to connect in and find them answers of just peace, not even
I
answers.
think what makes me feel the most powerful is reminding myself that I have the power to shift my vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Like that always makes me feel in control. Like, oh yeah, I have the power to just shift my frequency right now.
You decide. Yeah,
I decide. I'm the chooser. I used to write that a lot in my journals when I was like finding my power. I would say that a lot. I am the chooser. I get to choose. And I remember being a child, I was always very much like, no, I want to do it. Don't do it for me. I want to do it. I want to pick. I want to decide what I eat. I want to decide what I wear. I want to decide. I want to make choices. But it's because as humanity, we're reclaiming the power of what it feels like to make choices. Because if you think about it, we've been dumbed down to where it's like we don't even have to think anymore. Everything's automated. Like we've lost our abilities to choose.
And we're taught not to express differently, or, you know, my dad dealt with it really well, because he'd say to me, I'd be like, Dad, I want to do this, I want to do that, and he'd say, Anya, you can go walk on that wall, but if you fall off it, it's a 20-foot drop, so it's your choice. And I'd be like, oh, maybe not, you know. Show me the consequence, and he'd still present me with the choice, and he'd never make me feel like I was restricted from doing it. So it allowed me to then make the choice out of my own best well-being, rather than being told what was best for me. And I think that's such a great approach, you know, to parents, instead of just dictating to them what you believe is in their best interest. Give them some information and let them choose, you know.
Yeah, sometimes it just feels better to, like, I don't know, I mean, yeah, understanding is great though. There is value to understanding something, and I think when we do understand something is when our energy expands, when we actually understand.
When I embody it, when I can fully process it. I'm very much a processor, and I like to have all, you know, the pieces together, and then I processed it and I digest it, and it's then like in action. So that's why I try and do it. But sometimes there's things that we need to just process in that moment and be ready to process, rather than having preconceptions or, you know, pre-ID, whatever the word is, you know, ideas in your head that are pre-made, that are not necessarily what's in the best interest of alignment and what's going to come in. Then it's going to throw you off. So sometimes it is best just to kind of be in the now and just flowing with that. And that's
right.
what I'm
and that's one reason why I caution people with manifesting, because it's like sometimes you try so hard. It's like the concept of thinking you know what's best for you. It's like, yeah, most of the time you do know what's best for you, but being stubborn and rigid about that is not what's best for you. You know what I mean? Like what's best for you is going to be evolve and change. So reminding ourselves that there is divine timing, there is divine order, there is a bigger plan out there. And if we can surrender to that flow, what's best for us will just present itself. What's best for us is always presenting itself to us. So we don't have to manipulate things to make things work in our highest good. They're always working in your highest good if you allow them to.
Like,
that's the thing. When we resist is when it's such a mind fuck, because it's like, okay, to gain control, you have to surrender. No, to gain control, you have to surrender control, really. To gain control, you have to give up control. And that can be really hard.
The idea of what you think control is, that's
right.
what you have to You know, it's not like
exactly.
that's the point. When I got there, it was like, oh fuck, like I'm trying to control everything, not realizing the plans I'm trying to put in place, this structured, heavy, suffocating thing I'm trying to do is stopping that magic from just flowing in. I'm literally shutting the door to the magic. I'm going, no, sorry, you can't come here because I didn't plan and prepare for you to enter. You know, and that's the point. When we don't leave room for the universe to work magic, how the fuck flip-flop do we expect it to come into his life?
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's about going back to learning. It's about changing how we view control and knowing what we can actually control.
Yes, like,
which is our frequency.
And if I project that onto others, or if I allow others to project onto me, and what I spend my energetic time with, and what boundaries I put in place, and how much free time I give myself, and how much time I spend in nature, like they're the things I can control that have so much impact on my well-being and have the best interest in for me, rather than controlling when and what and how this money is going to come in for this and that and this, for this stress and that. Like, just knowing that that's going to be sorted and that's going to come in, because it will, because it's in the good, and it always does.
Ultimately, actually, even more basic, the only thing we can control is our focus.
Yeah.
Our focus, what we're focusing on. Because in the moment of anxiety, right, what are we focused on? We're focused on usually the future, what could happen, what might happen. And when we're, you know what I mean? So I think coming back into our power is remembering how to direct our focus with intention.
Yeah.
Think about how often we're just talking about nothing, or our mind is just going in circles about some random thing, or you know what I mean? Like, yeah, focus is our power.
And like you said, focus and then intention. Like you was literally saying earlier, there's such a pressure on multitasking and doing so many things at one time. Like, I am the queen of multitasking. I will just throw that out there, so I'm not looking like a hypocrite. However, there is still such an importance of just being present in that moment and setting an intention to one thing, and having an intention and being present in that moment too. Like, when I'm cooking, I always have some beautiful music on and just have the intention of love and energy, you know, into that food, and so that when I'm eating that food, it's not cooked with stress and worry over what's not happened or what's coming or blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It's cooked with the intention in that moment to nourish my body with that love and that vibration of energy. And that's what I then receive from that. So it really is important to have the focus and the intention, like you say, to have that. What are you trying to achieve out of that exercise, out of that, you know, activity? Even like something as so small as drinking that water right now, what are we aiming to achieve? What is the intention out of that, you know? And what do we want to, because
whenever I drink, I'm like either thinking, oh my God, I love you so much, or like, thank you, or I'll imagine it hydrating my cells, or I'll tell it like, thank you for hydrating all of my cells and giving me everything I need.
Beautiful. And that's the thing, like, people, the biggest thing I hear from people is, I don't have time to meditate, I don't have time to do manifestation, I don't have time to do affirmations. Just do it in your daily life. When you're drinking, cooking, when you're going for a wee, that's the most time I get downloads, is when I'm having a wee. You know, I get so many downloads on the toilet. This is a weird thing, but that's the point. You'll get so many different points of flow when you just surrender to the flow of life. Instead of walking up the river, just turn back and let it flow you around the rocks.
Yeah, just like Abraham Hicks says, flow down the river.
Well, I didn't actually know she said that. Is that what she said?
Yeah, she says stop trying to paddle upstream.
Right.
Like, life doesn't have to be hard.
Just flow. Because the river moves around the rocks naturally. It does. So you're not, you know, you might hit a little one on the way, but you'll learn from it.
Yeah, Abraham Hicks is great. Oh man, I wanted to show you my cat. He was doing this really cute thing in front of the window, but then the street sweeper came and he got scared. And then a bee landed on the window at the